I'm Seamless, and today is Wednesday, which means it's time for a sound design request tutorial. I actually wanted to have more come out this week, but I was on vacation last week, so I didn't really have time to make videos. So this one's a Protostar sound. The original will be linked in the description. And this is a pretty simple one, so I'm just going to not do a two-parter. Yeah. So basically what this is a bandpass bass. There's I made this in Harmor just because certain things that I wanted to do were just easier to do in Harmor, but you don't really need Harmor to do this sound. The basic layout I have Skype on. Yeah. The basic layout is you make some kind of growly sounding bass, like a Reese or something, and then you put a bandpass filter over it. And what I've done here is I've actually linked the bandpass to the mod X, and I just screwed it up because I told to remap it, and it did it. So I basically mapped it like this. So why did I choose to do this particular orientation? Well, when I, let's say if I did this, X doesn't change the bandpass value, but there's another filter running. I'm running a notch as well, or a band stop. But when I was messing around with the bandpass filter, there was this range that I wanted. Like, this is the only range that I wanted to really do. And there's numerous ways that you can make it so this range actually stays the same, not just in Harmor, but like if I wanted to automate this, what I could do is create an automation clip, and then this value will be there. And then what I will do is I'll go back to Harmor and copy this value, go into the settings of the automation clip, go to the minimum value, and say paste value. And now the minimum value is that value that I wanted originally. And then, like, that's the max value. So then I can go to copy this value, go to max, and paste that value in. And now this entire range of the automation clip will only be that range I just described, as you see there. And that's more or less what we're doing with the X mod, only we're setting it up manually with the mapping. So, like, for example, I knew that if this is where I wanted the correct value to be, so if X and Y and Z are always at center by default, so if at center, this is the lowest value I want, I know that I could set this here, and then I can move the dot up to center, which means that the lowest part of X will be the highest part that I want. But as you see, that goes way too high. So how do I know how high to go? I could do the copy method here and paste the value to this thing, or I could find the top that I want, and I could see where the graph crosses right there. So I see that's right, basically right there. So then, boop. Me a little bit higher. Too high. I can hit Alt to reduce to get rid of snapping. I can go a little bit between. And there you go, mapping for that. I also mapped the notch. You can kind of see it happening here. It's cutting through frequencies very sharply. And if I go to the articulator for this, it's actually doing the opposite. It's actually going down when the bandpass is going up, and going up when the bandpass is going down. So we get this kind of separative cone style going on. And this is really just icing, I guess, because if I just turn that off, it doesn't really change the sound that much. So that's just something that I decided to do. Other thing I decided to do was to turn on harmonic protection, which keeps the lower frequencies, by default, it keeps the lower frequencies free from the tyranny of filters. If I had it on maximum, can't really hear anything because the lower frequencies are on so hard that under the distortion, which this is being distorted, the modulation of the bandpass isn't noticeable. But if I do it a little bit, then when the bandpass is up here, it's, you know, lower on the lower harmonics. So that's why I do that with that. If you didn't want to use Harmor, what you would do to accomplish this is basically to reinforce the sound with a sine wave on some other plugin, and then put them all together to make the final sound. But I use Harmor to achieve that without having to really mess with it. So, yeah, distortion is on. It's log, and it's compression just to taste. Not a whole lot else. Okay, so yeah, in the unison, this is where I made the original growl and sound like be what it is. That's basically what it sounds like without the filters engaged. Bring it back to. So what I'm also doing is in the articulator of the pitch amount for the unison, I'm making it automate down over time, and that's pretty straightforward. What it basically does is it creates modulation, and then it goes stable so that it's solid sounding the whole time, as opposed to heavily modulated. So I mean, if that's what you wanted, that's how you would do that. But doing it like this keeps a nice solid sound beneath the filter modulation. Now, how tight you want the sound to be, because in this particular orientation, it's a little spready. You know what I mean? It's kind of washed. And if I increase the phase, it's actually less washy, but that's only because it's approaching 50% jump ahead, which is basically inverted of the original phase. But if you went farther than that, that's right, because I'm still in 2 voices. I had originally done this in 4 voices, which is why, or 5 voices, which is why it would get washier as the phase got increased. But because I'm in 2 voices, it pretty much stays nominal. So you can see differences when you move the phase around. And another way to keep to sort of change the density of the sound is to engage a little bit of prism. So that's kind of cool. But this is pretty much the basis of the sound. It's a bandpass filter, and then a notch filter just because why not? And automate it, and it's cool. Oh, another thing I have engaged here is keyboard tracking for the individual filters, which means that the overall sound modulation will be static for each note, which is kind of hard to do in something that's not Harmor. But it's also not super necessary. It just means that you would have to have higher control over your modulation when you move pitch around, which is pretty standard for not Harmor plugins. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I'll have this preset to download in the description. If you have any questions about any of this, let me know. And the link to the Facebook post for requesting next week's sound design requests will also be in the description. Yeah. So ask me questions, and as usual, have a nice day. I'm pretty low in the camera. I probably should have moved it a little bit, but I didn't.